Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another Gran Turismo 7 video. This time I'm going to be talking about the controversial addition of the ambulance in a few weeks time to Gran Turismo 7 and why, in my personal opinion, it's just not that out of the realms of possibility in terms of a Gran Turismo game. So we did get a few screenshots of this vehicle, kind of the inside of it, the outside of it, all that good stuff over the last few days in the blog post for Polyphony when the 136 trailer kind of came up. So I will put them in the background so you can take a proper look at what to expect from this vehicle. But I'm mainly here today to just talk about why, in my honest opinion, it really isn't anything that controversial or really that bad for Gran Turismo or Polyphony to be putting in this game. Now, to be honest, from what I can see around, some people are hailing this thing as a massively welcome addition, myself included, whereas others are completely bashing it and just saying that Polyphony have absolutely wasted their time putting this into the game because, well, race cars. Now, I'm going to be completely honest here, and I think this may be, in my honest opinion, down to the Gran Turismo Sport effect. Now, if we look back at the history of Gran Turismo games in terms of numbered titles, it's been a long time coming. We haven't had a proper numbered title since 2013, which was Gran Turismo 6, which certainly wasn't as popular as the likes of Gran Turismo 5 or Gran Turismo 4, you know, before that. And that game and all of those games were absolutely jam-packed with some of the most random and completely out of there and obscure cars that you've ever seen. It was kind of the Polyphony thing to put these weird and random cars in, and it was just all about, you know, including everything into car culture and, well, their games. So for me personally, I don't see this as a massively big deal or a really that weird for them to include, to be quite honest. I think kind of because it was so long between the main title games and the kind of generation previous to that with the PlayStation 2 and stuff, you know, these younger generations that might have only got their introduction with the likes of GT Sport might just be expecting more of the same. And let's be honest, GT Sport's car list, even towards the end of its life cycle, was rather quite limited or really not as out there as you'd expect it to be for a Gran Turismo title. It was mainly focused on the race cars, and a lot of people are probably going into that expecting more race cars, you know. But with this being a numbered title, I don't see the ambulance as being something really that out of the blue or really that weird and wacky. And I'm going to kind of show you why later in this video, where I take a dive into my personal favourite Gran Turismo game of all time, Gran Turismo 2, just to show you how these kind of utter random vehicles make the game or make the series what it is. It's always been a very good inclusion to the series to be able to start from nothing or kind of, you know, take these weird and wacky vehicles you may never ever find in any other racing game for the spin of their life, especially when it comes to adding the likes of ridiculous turbochargers and all that good stuff to them. Now, to quickly go back to my previous point about Gran Turismo Sport, that's not to say it's a bad game. In fact, it actually ended up being a very good game when it was fleshed out more to the end of its life cycle and kind of through its entire time. It was actually very well supported for a game that was actually very bare bones when it released, which was very much surprising. In terms of post-launch support, I feel like it actually got treated better than Gran Turismo 7 has so far, and it probably will end up that way when both games kind of, you know, come to the end of their life. I think honestly the post-launch support for Sport will be better than GT7. However, I am not necessarily just blaming GT Sport. Polyphony are partly to blame for this. There is a clear lack of, you know, focusing on race cars when they do a lot of pushing for the GT World Series and stuff, even through their numbered title. It's almost like Polyphony cannot make their mind up whether they want to focus on the support of a numbered title in the traditional sense, or that they want to focus on this whole esports stuff, in which case I fully agree with those people that, look, we do need more up-to-date cars. You know, they need to find a way of getting these updated models in there, because in all honesty, watching the World Series when the Group 3s are on and seeing so many outdated models, just, I don't know, personally it just leaves a bit of a sour taste in my mouth. So maybe from that sense I can understand the criticism, but I think if you're just not expecting the likes of an ambulance to be in a Gran Turismo numbered title, then, well, you've probably never been that deep into Gran Turismo games before. So let's head into my favourite ever Gran Turismo game, Gran Turismo 2. Now I am running on the PC version. Basically it has got a mod on it, so essentially this is the Plus version, which puts in all the content originally from Gran Turismo 2. And I'm just going to give you a few quick examples of these weird and strange cars that you just wouldn't find in any other racing game, and that really makes the likes of Gran Turismo so special. This is something that has followed the series for the longest time, maybe not so much in recent times, I think mainly due to licensing and, you know, things like that. Maybe they won't spend their resources on these cars, which I wish they would, because this was what Gran Turismo was all about, taking these absolute box vehicles, completely tuning them and just doing the most ridiculous things with them. And it's probably the reason Gran Turismo challenge videos are so popular, because, well, this is what Gran Turismo was all about for many people. You know, we had the likes of the Midget, we had the likes of some of the most weird and wacky little Subarus, Mazdas, everything. And a lot of people kind of say, look, why do they focus so much on JDM vehicles? And, well, you know, let's be totally honest, they are a Japanese developer, and it's probably much easier for them to actually get Japanese vehicles in their game. Now, who knows, I'm not really into the politics of, you know, licensing and all that kind of stuff, but it would make sense that they'd celebrate their own car culture as a Japanese company. Now, I'm also probably going to break the hearts of many kind of into this video for a very specific reason, because I do see a lot of comments mentioning the likes of, you know, the BTCC cards and stuff from Gran Turismo 2, and I'm going to actually show you why those cars weren't actually what you probably thought they were, and when licensing restrictions for cars must have been a lot more relaxed than they probably are to today's standards. But let's quickly just continue looking through some of the weird and wacky brands and cars that you just probably wouldn't find in any other racing game. And this is really why I don't think seeing an ambulance in Gran Turismo is all that controversial. As you can see, there's a vast array of just random vehicles kind of plugged in there. And for me, whilst okay, the car roster in GT7 isn't as big as the likes of Gran Turismo 2 or Gran Turismo 4, these weird cars and just out of the blue cars really made Gran Turismo as special as it was for so long, because these cars were just completely in the game. They were raceable, they were tunable, and I feel like that's kind of what the ambulance is going to be like. Yes, it's going to be a complete joke of a vehicle, but it's just really not outside the realms of possibility. Now let's quickly move on to what I was going to mention in terms of these race modified vehicles not actually being what you think they were. So I'm going to use the Vauxhall Vectra as a, you know, typical example. Obviously we all know this thing was race modifiable in Gran Turismo 2. So if we just go ahead and go to the tuning shop, and we're going to go to others, and we're going to click on the racing mods, as you can see, this gives it a very fitting look, very close to the BTCC car of the time. But it isn't actually the real thing. I do feel like maybe licensing and restrictions were very more relaxed back then, and it did cause them to just slightly, you know, very closely model them to the real thing, but get away with it enough where they couldn't be, you know, probably sued and such. So that is probably why you're not seeing the BTCC cars and, you know, the likes of those weird and wacky race cars from back then actually in Gran Turismo 7. And I do personally think that the licensing for those cars is actually owned by Motorsport Games. Obviously with the BTCC game coming up, if you ever play R-Factor 2, they are in there, some of the more up-to-date BTCC cars. So I think that is completely out of the realms of possibility for Gran Turismo. But yes, they were essentially copies of the real thing with a few slight changes just to keep them, I guess, an original Gran Turismo car, like we see with some of the cars in GT7, GT Sport and stuff, where they're very close to the actual thing, but they're not the actual thing. So yeah, I do think a lot of people kind of get confused with that. But overall, I honestly don't think seeing this ambulance in Gran Turismo 7 is really that controversial, to be honest. I think it will fit quite nicely in the game. Yes, it's a complete meme, but no, I am not shocked by its addition. And I'm, to be honest, really not bothered that it's taken the place of, you know, some of the other cars that could have come to the game. Like I said, and like I always try and, you know, say to people, there's a lot more that goes on behind the scenes of car licensing and getting cars into your game that, you know, we don't really know the ins and outs. You know, a lot of companies have exclusive rights to certain brands. They pay a lot of money to get these brands in the game, and it's not always going to be possible for them to just shove in anything you want, you know, including modern cars. Although, to be completely honest, it does seem like Polyphony is up in their game in terms of actually getting modern cars into the game, as of lately anyway. We have had the likes of the Valkyrie come into the game, which is a modern hypercar. We've got the Corolla, a modern hot hatch. We've also got the, you know, the likes of the Maserati, again, a modern sports car, supercar, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, look, they're not going to be able to please everyone, to be quite honest, and Polyphony have always been known for just doing their own thing. So in terms of just arguing about cars coming to the game, it's clear they've got a strategy to it. Do I think the cars on the elite list will come? I think we will get the majority of them by the time that Gran Turismo 7, I guess, comes to an end. But in terms of licensing and stuff, look, no one's going to know that apart from Polyphony. And to be honest, the addition of the ambulance just really isn't that shocking if you go ahead and look into the historic Gran Turismo games and just see just how weird and wacky these cars are and why they make Gran Turismo, at least in terms of their numbered titles, as special as they really are. It's the same thing with a game that I used to play way back, which was Gran Turismo Concept Tokyo to Geneva, which was all about concept cars, and it's the main reason why I don't find the VGT program really that shocking. They've always had a close relationship in terms of concept cars from all the way back in 2002 until today. So, you know, it is just kind of, you know, if you kind of want to argue with Polyphony about what cars they put into the game, just have a quick peek into the history of these games. If you've never, you know, if you're new to Gran Turismo with 7 or new to Gran Turismo with Sport, go ahead, have a look at some of the weird and wacky cars and some of the concept cars, and you may understand why they actually go about doing things they do. That doesn't mean I'm completely defending Polyphony. There is, you know, to be honest, a lot of cars they realistically could squeeze into this game that hopefully one day we will see, and hopefully, you know, when the time that GT8 comes or whatever's next, they do begin to push their focus on modernizing these group classes and actually grouping them properly, which is my main nitpick, you know, against them, is that these groups are not actually grouped in the way you'd kind of expect them to. But that's going to be it. I honestly don't think the ambulance is that controversial. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe. I'll be back tomorrow covering the update, and I'll cover everything I can over the next couple of weeks. Obviously, it's been a bit spread out. Obviously, I'm not too happy about the way that Polyphony have gone about this one. The fact that we're only getting 2 cars on release, and then actually, if you miss the early access, they're all getting pushed to September, which I just think's an absolutely terrible decision, but who knows what they'll do. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. A big thank you to all of my channel members, and thanks to Wraith for allowing me to jump on board their brand. I've actually been drinking a lot of this stuff recently to kind of move away from some of those absolute junk energy drinks that I used to drink to give myself a kick in the morning. So check them out. I've got 10% off. Use my code, and yeah, that'd be absolutely awesome. And again, massive shout out to the channel members. I'll see you later on, guys. Take care. Peace.